You're listening to the low end of the dial. It's past 1, and the city outside this window has gone cold and still. The street lights sharper tonight than they were last week. The amber crisper, the way light gets when the air turns, when the temperature drops and the moisture leaves, and the air becomes thin and clear, and the light has less to travel through. November light. Even the street lights know it's November. The board is humming. The coffee is the only warm thing in this studio that I didn't plug in. And I was sitting here in the quiet and I felt it. Not heard, not smelled, felt. In the lungs. That first breath of cold air. The kind of cold that doesn't hurt but that announces itself, that says the warm months are over, the coat is necessary, the morning is dark, and the air is a different thing now than it was in September. The cold that you breathe in and feel all the way down, a sharpness in the chest, a cleanness, the air scrubbed by the temperature, emptied of everything except itself, and the breath that comes back out is visible. A cloud. A small, white, dissolving cloud that leaves your mouth and hangs in the air for a moment and then is gone. And the cloud is proof. Proof that you're warm inside. Proof that the air is cold outside. Proof that the two are meeting right here at the border of your lips. And the meeting makes a ghost, a small, white, temporary ghost that dissolves before the next breath makes another one. That breath. That November breath. That breath took me to a curb on a street in the early morning in 1962 or 1963, and I was standing on it and the school bus had not come yet. The curb. Let me stay with the curb. Because the curb was the place, the station, the platform, the spot where you stood every weekday morning from September to June. And in November, the standing was different from the standing in September, because in September the standing was warm, was light, was the tail end of summer, the mornings still bright, the air still soft, and in November, the standing was cold. The standing was dark. The morning hadn't started yet. Not really, not fully. The sky was that colour it gets in November before the sun comes up. Not black, not blue, but a dark grey, a heavy grey, the grey of a sky that is carrying weather but hasn't decided what to do with it yet. And the grey sat on the rooftops, and the trees, and the street, and the curb, and you were in it. In the grey, in the cold, in the dark, standing on the curb with your coat on and your book bag at your feet and your breath making ghosts. The coat. The coat was heavy. Not the jacket you wore in October, the lighter one, the windbreaker, the one that was enough when the mornings were cool but not cold. This was the winter coat, the real coat. Wool, probably, or something lined, something with weight. Something that pressed on your shoulders and held your arms slightly out from your sides, and that smelled like the closet it had been in since March. That mothball smell. That cedar smell. That dark, enclosed, stored-away smell that faded after a few days of wearing, but that was strong on the first morning, the first wearing. The first November day you pulled it from the hanger and put your arms through the sleeves. And the sleeves were cold, because the coat had been hanging in the unheated closet since the spring, and the lining was cold against your wrists, and the collar was cold against your neck, and the coat was not yet your coat again. It was still the closet's coat. It would take a few mornings of wearing, a few hours of body heat, a few walks to the curb, and rides on the bus for the coat to become yours again, for the lining to warm, for the wool to soften, for the mothball smell to be replaced by your smell, the smell of you in November, which was different from the smell of you in July. And the book bag. The book bag was at your feet on the curb, or on your shoulder, a canvas bag, or a leather satchel, or whatever it was that held the books and the notebooks and the pencils and the lunch. And the bag was heavy with all of it. And the weight of the bag on your shoulder, or in your hand, was the weight of the school day ahead, the weight of the hours between now and 3 o'clock. And the weight was familiar, was daily, was the same weight every morning, the same books, the same notebooks, the same pencils worn down by a fraction since yesterday, and the bag sat on the curb or hung from your shoulder, and the morning was around you, and the bus had not come. The street. The street in November at this hour was different from the street in summer. In summer the street was bright by now, the sun up, the pavement warm, The houses open, the windows and the doors letting the air through. In November, the street was closed. The houses were closed, the windows shut, the storm windows on, the double layer of glass between the warm inside and the cold outside, and the houses looked sealed, looked buttoned up, looked like they had drawn their walls tighter around themselves the way you drew your coat tighter around yourself, and the houses were not letting anything out. No smell of coffee through the window, no radio through the screen door. The houses were keeping their warmth to themselves, and the street was cold because the houses were not sharing. And the trees along the street were bare. Not all of them. Some still had leaves. The oaks were the last to let go, holding their brown, dry, curled leaves into December sometimes, refusing to give them up. But the elms and the maples were bare, their branches exposed, the architecture of the tree visible now in a way it wasn't visible in summer when the leaves covered everything. The branches were dark against the grey sky, a fine, intricate spreading pattern like cracks in glass, like the veins in a leaf magnified 1,000 times, and the branches were wet. The cold had brought dew or frost, a thin silver coating on the upper surfaces of the branches, and the frost caught what light there was in the sky and reflected it faintly, so the trees were outlined in a thin, cold silver light, and the trees looked like drawings of trees, like someone had taken a fine pen and drawn every branch and every twig on the grey page of the November sky. And the lawns were different in November. The green was gone, not replaced by brown, not dead, just faded, a pale, tired greyish green that had been bright in July and lush in August and had been slowly giving up since September. And the grass was short, mowed one last time in October, the last mowing of the year, and the short, faded grass had frost on it, a thin frost, a delicate silver, barely there frost that lay on each blade like a coat of fine sugar, and the frost made the lawns white from a distance. Not snow white, not December white, but a pale silver November white that would be gone by 9 o'clock when the sun got high enough to reach it, and the frost would melt and the lawns would go back to their tired green, and the white would be a memory, a morning thing, a thing that existed only at this hour, only at this temperature, only in the dark to light transition of a November day. And the porches. The porches had things on them that November put there. The milk bottles. The glass bottles in the wire carrier, set on the porch by the milkman before dawn, the bottles cold, the cream risen to the top in a pale, thick layer under the paper cap, and the bottles were frosted, the glass clouded with condensation, and the milk inside was the temperature of the morning, was November cold, and the bottles would be taken in when the door opened, and the hand reached out and pulled them inside, and the warmth of the kitchen would fog the glass further before it cleared. And the newspaper. The morning paper in its plastic sleeve, or rolled and held with a rubber band, lying on the porch step or on the mat, delivered while you slept, lying there in the frost, the paper damp at the edges, the ink cold, the news inside it happening in a world that was still asleep on this street, on this curb, at this hour. And the leaves on the ground. The leaves that had fallen were still there, in the gutters, in the corners of the yards, in the places where the wind had pushed them and the rain had matted them, and they lay in flat, wet brown layers, decomposing slowly, becoming mulch, becoming earth. And the leaves in the gutter had a smell. Not the sharp, papery, sweet smell of freshly fallen leaves. That was October's smell. This was November's smell, damper, deeper, more like earth than like leaf. The smell of something returning to the ground, the smell of the slow, cold, patient work of decay, and the smell was in the gutter and on the curb and under your shoes, and in the air, mixed with the cold, mixed with the grey, mixed with the breath ghosts dissolving above your head. And the quiet. The November morning quiet at the curb. It was a thicker quiet than the summer quiet. The cold thickened the quiet the way it thickened the air. Sound travelled differently in cold air, travelled slower, travelled less far, and the sounds of the morning were muffled, were contained, were close. A dog barking somewhere, but far farther than it would sound in summer. A door closing, but the sound absorbed by the cold, swallowed, gone before it reached you. A car starting, 2 blocks over, 3. The engine turning over in the cold, the starter grinding, the engine catching, the exhaust visible in the cold air as a white plume from the tailpipe, and the sound of the engine was low and thick and reluctant. The engine cold, the oil cold, the metal cold, everything in the car waking up slowly, the way everything woke up slowly on a November morning, reluctantly, stiffly, by degrees. And you stood on the curb and you waited, the coat heavy on your shoulders, the book bag heavy at your feet, the breath leaving your mouth in clouds, the street dark and cold and closed and quiet, and the bus had not come. And the waiting was the thing. The waiting was the ritual, the daily offering, the small price of the ride. You stood here at this spot at this hour every morning, and the bus came, and the waiting ended, and the ride began. But the bus had not come yet. And the waiting went on, and the cold went on, and the breath went on, cloud after cloud, ghost after ghost, dissolving, dissolving. Each one proof that you were warm and the world was cold, and the border between the two was right here at the edge of your mouth, on a curb on a street in November in 1962, and your hands were in your pockets. Deep in the coat pockets, the lining of the pockets warmer than the air, the fingers curled against the palms, the hands making fists inside the pockets, holding whatever warmth they could, and the pockets had things in them. A penny, maybe, or a marble, or the small, smooth stone you'd picked up last week and kept for no reason. And the stone was in the pocket, and the stone was the temperature of the pocket, and the pocket was warmer than the air, and the stone was warm in a way that stones are not supposed to be warm. Warmed by the pocket, warmed by the thigh, warmed by the body that carried it. And down the block, far at the next corner, barely visible in the grey, another shape, another coat, another book bag, another child standing on another curb, waiting for the same bus, making the same ghosts with the same breath. And the shape was small and still and patient, and you could see the white cloud appearing and disappearing above the shape's head, the breath, the proof, the same proof you were making. And the two of you stood on your separate curbs in the November dark and waited together without being together, connected by the route, by the bus, by the cold, by the morning that was the same morning for both of you, the same grey, the same frost, the same heavy sky pressing down on the rooftops, and the bare branches, and the frosted lawns, and the milk bottles on the porches, and the newspaper in its sleeve on the step. And then the sound of the bus before you could see it. A low sound, a diesel sound, a heavy, mechanical, grinding, climbing sound that was different from the sound of a car or a truck. Heavier, lower, more deliberate, the sound of a large machine working hard, and the sound came from around the corner, from the next block, from the route the bus always took. And you knew the sound the way you knew the creak in the third step of the basement stairs, the way you knew the click of the kitchen clock. You knew it in your body before your ears confirmed it, and the sound grew, and the sound got closer, and the headlights appeared. 2 yellow lights, wide set, low, coming around the corner, the lights cutting through the grey of the November morning. And behind the lights, the shape, the big, square, yellow shape of the bus. The yellow that was the brightest thing in the morning, the brightest thing on the street. A moving rectangle of school bus yellow that did not belong to November, that belonged to no season, that was its own colour, its own fact. And the bus came down the street towards you, and the engine sound grew, and the brakes began, a hiss, a squeal, the air brakes doing their work, and the bus slowed, and the bus stopped, and the bus was there. And the door opened. The folding door, the 2 panels that folded inward, and the sound of the door was mechanical and specific. A pneumatic hiss, a clatter of metal hinges, and the door folded open, and the inside of the bus was there, visible. A rectangle of warm lit, yellow-green light, the overhead lights on, the interior of the bus glowing, and the warmth came out. The warmth from inside the bus came out through the open door and touched your face, and the warmth smelled like the bus, diesel and vinyl, and the heater and the rubber mats on the floor, and the particular, enclosed, recycled warmth of a vehicle that has been running its heater for an hour already, picking up children at curb after curb, each child bringing their own small contribution of body heat. And the bus was warm, was already warm, was warm because the children before you had warmed it, and the warmth was an invitation. And you picked up the book bag and you stepped up. The steps. 3 metal steps, each one ribbed, the ridges of the metal cold under your shoe even through the sole, and the steps were steep for short legs, and you climbed them, 1, 2, 3, and each step took you further from the curb, further from the cold, further from the November morning, and the warmth increased with each step, the first step still cold, the second step warmer, the third step warm, and you were inside. You were on the bus. The rubber mat on the floor of the aisle. Black, thick, ridged for traction. The rubber smelling like rubber, like the tires of the bus, like the soles of 40 pairs of shoes that had walked on it that morning. The mat was under your feet, and the door was closing behind you. The pneumatic hiss again, the panels folding shut, and the cold was on the other side of the door now, and the curb was on the other side of the door, and the morning was on the other side of the door, and you were in the bus, and the bus was warm, and the bus was moving. And the driver was a shape. A shape in the big seat at the front, the seat that was larger than the other seats, the seat with the steering wheel in front of it, the wide, thin, hard steering wheel that the driver's hands held at 10 and 2, and the driver's hands were the only detail. Large hands, or thick hands, or gloved hands. The gloves dark, and the hands turned the wheel, and the bus turned, and the bus moved, and the route began. And the driver was not a person. The driver was the reason the bus moved. The way the engine was the reason the bus moved. A part of the machine, a function, a warmth at the front of the bus that guided the warmth through the cold. I'm in the studio, and the heater in this building has been on all night, and the warmth is the same kind of warmth, enclosed, mechanical, constant. And the studio is the bus, in a way. The bus is the studio, a small, warm, humming room that carries you through the dark, and the dark is outside the glass, and the warmth is inside, and the border between the two is the window. The glass, the thin, transparent wall that lets you see the cold without being in it. I've got a record for you, something that sounds like a November morning, something with a chill in it that the warmth hasn't reached yet, something with breath in it, visible breath, dissolving breath, the small white clouds that prove you're alive in the cold. Something you can stand in, on a curb, in a coat, with a book bag at your feet, waiting for the yellow shape to come around the corner. Here it comes. Let it arrive. That one had cold in it. The way the trumpet played, high and thin and clear, the notes hanging in the air the way breath hangs in the cold, visible for a moment and then gone. And the rhythm section underneath was warm, was low, was the heater under the trumpet's chill, and the two together were November, the cold on top and the warm underneath. That's where we are tonight. The board is humming, the studio is warm, and I'm on the bus. The door has closed behind me, the cold is on the other side of it, and the bus is moving, and I'm standing in the aisle looking for a seat. The aisle. The aisle of the school bus was narrow, narrower than you remember, or exactly as narrow as you remember, depending on how long it's been since you were in one. The aisle was made of the same rubber as the mat at the entrance. Black, ridged, the ridges running lengthwise, and the rubber was worn in the center where 1,000 shoes had walked it, worn smooth and thin. The ridges flattened, and the rubber was wet this morning from the shoes that had come in from the frost. The melted frost and the dew tracked in on soles and carried down the aisle, and the wet rubber had a smell, a cold, clean, mineral smell. The smell of water on rubber, the smell of the outside brought inside on the bottoms of shoes, and the seats on both sides. The seats were green. That particular green, the green of school buses and army jeeps and chalkboards and the vinyl chairs in the principal's office, a green that belonged to institutions, to public things, to things that were bought in bulk and maintained by someone whose job was maintenance, not beauty. The green was not a color anyone would choose for their own house, for their own car, for their own couch. The green was the color of being somewhere that wasn't home. And the seats were vinyl, the same vinyl as the car's back seat, the same smooth, slightly tacky, slightly resistant material, but a different color and a different temperature, Because these seats had been sitting in an unheated bus all night in a parking lot in November, and the vinyl was cold, the cold of the seat. I want to stay here. Because sitting down on a cold vinyl bus seat on a November morning was a specific physical experience, a small shock, a transaction between the body and the surface. And the transaction went like this. You sat, and the vinyl was cold, and the cold came through your pants, through the fabric, and touched the backs of your thighs, and your body recoiled. Not visibly, not dramatically, just a small internal flinch, a tightening, the muscles resisting the cold the way muscles resist cold water. And then, this is the part I remember, then the warming began. The body's warmth, the warmth you'd been carrying inside your coat and your clothes and your skin, the warmth that was yours, began to flow into the vinyl, and the vinyl began to warm slowly, the way all vinyl warms by absorbing the heat of whatever is sitting on it, and the cold retreated, pulled back, withdrew from the surface, and the surface became warm, became your temperature, became the shape of your body, and the warmth of your body pressed into the green vinyl. And the seat was yours. The seat was warm. And the warming had taken, what, 2 minutes? 3? The length of one stop, maybe 2. And the seat that had been cold was now the warmest thing touching you. Warmer than the coat, warmer than the air, because the vinyl held the heat close, held it against your legs, sealed it in the way a hot water bottle seals its heat, and the seat was no longer a public seat, a green institutional seat. The seat was your seat. Your warmth had claimed it. And the seat itself, the bench, the school bus seat was a bench, not a bucket seat, not a contoured seat, but a flat bench, wide enough for 2 children or 2 thin teenagers or 1 large person. And the bench had a back, and the back was the same green vinyl. And the back was cold too, when you leaned against it. The same shock, the same flinch, the same slow warming. And the back had a metal bar across the top. A chrome bar, the grab bar, the bar you held when you stood up. Or the bar the person in front of you draped their arms over. And the chrome bar was the coldest thing on the bus. Colder than the vinyl, colder than the rubber, colder than the window. The chrome bar held the November temperature the way all chrome holds temperature. Stubbornly, deeply, refusing to warm. And if you touched it with your bare hand, the cold bit, a sharp, metallic, instant cold that made you pull your hand away. And the chrome bar stayed cold for the whole ride, a thin line of winter running along the top of every seat, and you learned not to touch it. Or you touched it every morning anyway, because the cold was interesting, was specific, was a small, daily available experience that cost nothing and proved something, proved that metal and skin have different ideas about temperature, proved that November was real, proved that the bus was a machine and the machine was cold and only the bodies in it were warm. And the heater. The heater was underneath. Somewhere below the floor, below the rubber mat, the heater was running. You couldn't see it, couldn't find the source, but you could feel it. The warm air came up through vents at the base of the walls, along the sides, near the floor, and the warm air rose, the way warm air always rises, slowly, patiently, climbing from the floor to the seats to the windows, and the warm air smelled like the heater, which smelled like dust and metal, and the particular dry, slightly scorched smell of air that has been forced through a hot metal chamber, heated by contact, dried by the heat, and the smell was the smell of every heater in every car and every building in every November, the smell of the season itself being fought by a machine, and the machine was winning. Slowly, the bus getting warmer stop by stop, the air temperature rising by fractions, and the heater smell mixing with the vinyl smell and the rubber smell and the diesel smell and the wet shoe smell and the coat smell, the wool and the mothballs and the cold. And the bus was a library of November smells, each one layered on the last, each one telling a small part of the story of a morning in the cold. And the windows were fogging. That's what happened when you put 40 warm bodies in a cold metal box and ran a heater and closed the doors. The warm, moist breath of the bodies met the cold glass of the windows, and the moisture condensed, and the windows fogged. From the bottom up. The fog crept up the glass the way frost creeps down slowly, a rising tide of white, and the fog was thickest at the bottom of the window, where the warm air from the heater and the bodies was densest, and thinner at the top, where the air was still cool, still dry, and the world outside was visible through the top of the window. The bare trees, the grey sky, the houses passing, but the bottom of the window was gone, was white, was a wall of condensation, and the fog was wet. If you touched it, your finger came away wet, and the glass behind the fog was cold, and the cold and the wet were the window's contribution to the November experience. And the window was where the cold and the warm met, the battle line, the front, the place where the outside and the inside fought their slow, silent, daily war. And the window frame. The window of the school bus was set in a metal frame, aluminum, or painted steel, and the frame had a latch, a small chrome latch at the top that you could flip to unlock the window, and the window could be pushed open, pushed down actually, the top half of the window sliding down over the bottom half. And in September and October, when the mornings were warm, the windows were open and the air came through, and the bus was a moving, breathing, open thing. But in November, the windows were closed. The latches were latched. The glass was sealed against the cold, and the metal frame was cold as the chrome bar on the seat, and a bead of condensation ran down the inside of the frame, a single, slow, clear drop of water, making its way from the top of the frame to the bottom, following the channel of the metal. And the drop was the window crying, or the window sweating, or the window doing what all cold surfaces do when warm. Wet air touches them, giving the water back, drop by drop, in a thin, slow, quiet stream that nobody watched but that went on all morning. The glass weeping, the frame carrying the tears to the rubber gasket at the bottom where they collected in a small, cold, clear pool. And through the clear top half of the window, the half that hadn't fogged yet, the world. The November world. The neighborhood passing by at school bus speed, which was not fast, which was the speed of stopping and starting, the speed of every 2 blocks. And the world through the clear glass was the same world you'd been standing in at the curb 10 minutes ago, but different, because you were moving through it now, and it was moving past you, and the houses went by, and the bare trees went by, and the frosted lawns went by, and the mailboxes and the fire hydrants and the parked cars with the frost on their windshields went by. And each house had a porch light still on from the night, not yet turned off. And the porch lights were amber in the grey, small, warm, faithful points in the cold morning, the same porch lights that had been burning since dusk the night before. And they would go off soon, when someone inside noticed the morning was here and reached for the switch. But for now they were on, and the bus drove past them, one after another, amber dot after amber dot, the porch lights of November, and the bus was filling. At every stop, and the stops were frequent now, every 2 blocks, every 3, the bus pulling to the curb, the brakes hissing, the door folding open, and the cold rushing in like a guest that wasn't invited, the cold filling the aisle for a moment, pushing the warm air back, and then a shape in the doorway, a coat, a book bag, a body climbing the 3 metal steps, and the door closing again, and the cold retreating, and the bus reclaiming its warmth. And each new body added its heat to the bus, and the bus got warmer, and the windows got foggier, and the aisle got more crowded with book bags set on the floor and legs stretched into the aisle and coats piled on laps. The coats too warm now to wear, the bus having won the argument with November. The heater and the bodies having overcome the cold metal and the cold glass and the cold chrome. And the bus was warm, was fully warm, was the warmest place any of these bodies had been since they left their kitchens. And the sounds of the bus in motion, filled with bodies. The engine underneath, the diesel, the deep, continuous, vibrating rumble that came up through the floor and the seats and into your body. The way the bass of the album came through the basement carpet, the diesel felt as much as heard. And the heater hissing from the vents, and the squeak of the vinyl when someone shifted, that high, brief, rubbery squeak that the vinyl made when skin or fabric moved across it. And the squeak was everywhere, was constant, was the sound of 40 bodies adjusting, settling, shifting in their seats. and the squeaks overlapped and blended into a continuous, low, rubbery murmur that was the sound of the bus being occupied, being lived in, being warm, and the breathing of the bus. Not one breath, many, all of them going at once, all of them slightly different, some fast, some slow, some visible in the still cold air near the windows, some invisible in the warm air near the aisle. And the breathing fogged the glass further, and the glass fogged the world, and the world outside was getting less visible with every breath, less detailed, less real. The houses and the trees and the street dissolving behind the condensation, becoming shapes, becoming suggestions, becoming the soft, blurred, white-edged memory of a world that was out there, that was still cold, that was still November, but that was on the other side of the glass, on the other side of the fog, on the other side of the warmth, and the bus that broke down. I want to drift there for a moment because the warmth made me think of it. Someone told me, or I heard, I think I heard at the diner, that a bus, not this bus, another bus, the one that ran the county route, the route that went out past the farms, the longer route, the route that picked up the kids who lived on the roads with no sidewalks. That bus broke down last winter. Not November, January, the deep cold, the real cold, the kind where the diesel gels in the tank and the battery dies in the night and the engine turns over once, twice and won't catch. The bus broke down on the county road halfway through the route, and it sat there, the engine off, the heater off, and the cold came in. Not all at once, slowly, the way the warm had come in slowly that morning when the heater was on. The cold came in at the same pace, through the same glass, through the same metal, through the same floor. And the bus that had been warm got cool, and the cool got cold, and the cold got deep. And the windows that had been fogged cleared, the moisture freezing on the glass, turning to frost, a thin, white, crystalline frost on the inside of the windows. And the frost was beautiful. Someone said the frost was like ferns, like feathers, like something drawn by a hand finer than any hand. And the bus sat on the county road for an hour with the frost growing on the windows and the cold deepening and the bodies in the seats drawing their coats tighter. And the breath was visible again, inside the bus, the clouds from every mouth. And the bus was a cold metal box on a road in a field in January. And the warmth was a memory, and the heater was silent, and the engine was silent, and the only sound was the breathing and the wind. But that was a different bus, a different morning, a different cold. This bus, my bus, the bus I'm on tonight in the memory, this bus is warm. This bus has its heater and its bodies and its fog on the glass and its vinyl warming under me and its diesel humming in the floor, and the bus is moving, and the route is the route. And the November is the November I know. And the cold is outside where it belongs, on the other side of the fog, on the other side of the glass. And I'm inside. And the seat is warm, and the ride goes on. I'm in the studio. The board is warm. The equipment is warm. The building's heater is doing its work in the ducts behind the walls. The same work the bus heater was doing under the floor, pushing warm air into a cold space, fighting November, winning slowly. And the glass of the studio window is fogged at the corners, just slightly, just the faintest condensation where the warm inside meets the cold outside. And the fog on the studio glass is the fog on the bus glass, the same war, the same border, the same proof that warm and cold are always negotiating, always meeting, always making their small, wet, temporary truce on the surface of the glass. I've got a record for you, something that warms up slowly. Something that starts cold, a single note, bare and thin and high, and then the bass comes in and the drums come in and the warmth builds, layer by layer, body by body, the way the bus builds its warmth, stop by stop, breath by breath, until the cold is forgotten and the fog is on the glass and the seat is warm and the ride is the only thing. Here it comes, let it warm.
That one warmed up the way the bus warmed up. From the bottom, the bass first, the heat rising through the song the way the heat rose through the floor vents, and by the end, the whole thing was warm. The whole room was warm. The whole studio was warm, and the trumpet that had been cold at the start was warm at the end, and the difference was the time, the patience, the letting the warmth arrive at its own pace. I liked that one. I liked the way it didn't hurry. The board is humming. The night is past its middle, and the bus is moving, has been moving, the route unfolding through the fogged windows, the stops coming and going, the door opening and closing, the cold rushing in and being pushed back out by the warmth and the bodies and the heater, and the bus is full now, or nearly full, the seats occupied, the aisle clear, the book bags on laps or under seats or wedged between the wall and the hip, and the bus is doing what the bus does every morning, which is carry the weight of 40 bodies and 40 coats and 40 book bags through the same streets, past the same houses, around the same corners, in the same order, at the same time. And the order is the route, and the route is the thing I want to stay with now. The route. You knew it by heart. Not the way you know a map by heart. Not the names of the streets, not the left on this and right on that. You knew it by body. You knew it the way you knew the stairs in your house, by feel, by rhythm, by the way the bus leaned when it turned, by the way the brakes sounded at each stop, by the way the engine strained going up the hill on Chestnut, or wherever the hill was, the one hill on the route, the grade that made the bus slow down, and the engine drop a gear, and the sound change from the flat, steady diesel hum to a lower, harder, working sound, and you felt the hill in your seat, in the slight backward lean of your body, the slight increase in pressure against the seat back, and you knew, without looking, without checking the window, you knew exactly where you were. The hill meant the middle of the route. The hill meant 10 more minutes. And the turns. Each turn had its own lean. The bus was large, and the bus was heavy, and the bus did not turn the way a car turns. Sharply, neatly, the body barely noticing. The bus turned the way a ship turns, gradually, widely, the whole vehicle tilting slightly to the outside of the curve, and the tilt was in your body, in the way you shifted on the vinyl seat, sliding half an inch toward the window or half an inch toward the aisle. And the tilt told you which direction the turn was, left or right. And the sequence of tilts was the route translated into the body's language of lean and shift and return. Left, straight, straight, right, straight. The hill, straight, left. The stop where 3 kids got on at once, and the door stayed open longer, and the cold came in deeper. Straight, right. The railroad tracks, the bump, the double bump, the front axle crossing, and then the rear axle crossing, the whole bus rocking, the book bag shifting, the windows rattling in their frames. And the bump meant you were past the tracks, and the tracks meant you were in the other part of town, the part with the bigger houses, the older trees, the streets that were wider and quieter, and the bus moved through this part with the same patience it moved through every part, stopping, opening, closing, stopping, opening, closing. The stops. Each stop was a small event. The bus slowed, the brakes hissing, the speed dropping, the lean of deceleration pressing you gently forward, and the bus stopped and the door opened and the cold came in. Every time, every stop, the door opened and the November rushed in like it had been waiting just outside, pressing against the door, ready, and the cold was sharper now than it had been at your stop, because the morning was later and the temperature had dropped further, the way November mornings drop. The coldest point not at dawn, but after, at 8, at 8:30. The cold deepening even as the sky lightened, and the cold came through the door and ran down the aisle like water down a trough, and you felt it on your face, on your hands, on whatever skin was exposed. And then the door closed, and the cold retreated, and the warmth rebuilt, and the bus moved. And the sound of the stop. Each stop had the same sequence of sounds, the same small symphony. The air brakes first, a long, high, hissing exhale, the bus sighing, the bus letting go of its speed, and then the squeak of the brakes themselves, metal on metal, a high, thin, complaining sound. And then the engine dropping to idle, the diesel hum going lower, going quieter, going to the rumble that was the engine's resting state. And then the door, the pneumatic hiss, the folding clatter, and then the pause, the brief pause while the body on the curb climbed the steps, each step a clank, the metal steps ringing under the shoe, and then the door again closing, the hiss and the clatter in reverse. And then the engine rising, the diesel coming back to its working pitch, and the bus moving and the route continuing. And the sequence repeated at the next stop and the next, The same sounds in the same order, a rhythm, a liturgy, the daily mass of the school bus, the same prayers at every station, and at each stop, a body, a coat in the doorway, a shape on the steps, the book bag bumping the railing, and the body moved down the aisle and found a seat. The same seat, usually, the same seat every morning, because the seats on the bus were claimed the way the seats in a classroom were claimed, not by assignment, but by habit, by the slow accumulation of mornings. And each body went to its seat the way each body went to its desk, without thinking, without choosing, the muscles and the feet making the decision that the mind had stopped making weeks ago. And the bus got warmer with each body, each coat that was unzipped and opened, each pair of lungs that breathed the warm air in and breathed warmer air out, each pair of thighs that pressed the vinyl and gave it heat. The bus was a machine for collecting warmth from bodies, for accumulating it, stop by stop, child by child, until the warmth was thick and the fog on the windows was complete and the heater was almost unnecessary, the bodies having done the heater's work, the bodies being the heater, 40 small furnaces in green vinyl seats, burning their breakfast, producing their warmth, giving it to the bus. And the weight of the bus changed with each stop. The bus got heavier. The springs compressed another fraction. The ride got softer, smoother. The weight of the bodies cushioning the bumps, dampening the vibration. And the bus that had been stiff and rattling at the first stop, your stop, the early stop, when the bus was nearly empty, the bus was now dense and padded and warm and heavy, the weight of 40 children and their coats and their bags pressing the tires into the road. And the road felt different through the heavier bus, the bumps smaller, the cracks less sharp, the ride a gentler thing. The window, my window, the window beside my seat, which was my seat because I sat in it every morning, the third row from the back on the right side, and the window was fogged now, fully fogged, the condensation complete, the glass a white, wet, opaque wall between me and the November, and the world outside was gone. Not gone, hidden, behind the fog, behind the moisture that my breath and the breath of the body beside me and the breath of every body on the bus had put on the glass, the collective exhalation of 40 lungs deposited on the cold surface as a thin, even, dripping layer of water, and the drawing. This is where I want to stay. This is the anchor, because you could draw on the fog glass. You could raise your hand, the hand that had been warm in your pocket, warm on your lap, warm against the warming vinyl of the seat, and you could extend one finger, the index finger, and you could touch the glass, and the glass was cold. The finger met the fog, and the fog was wet, and the glass behind the fog was cold, and the cold was a shock after the warmth of the pocket. A small, bright, specific cold at the tip of one finger, and the finger pressed the fog, and the fog cleared. A dot, a small clear dot on the white glass, and through the dot, the world. A circle of clarity in the opacity, a window in the window, and through the dot you could see the street, the houses, the bare trees, the gray sky. The world that had been hidden by the fog was right there inches away on the other side of the glass, and the dot was the proof, the peephole, the keyhole, and the world through the dot was sharp and bright and cold-looking, the way the world always looks when you see it through a small opening, more vivid, more present, more real than it looks when you see all of it at once. And the finger moved. You drew a line, a slow, wet, cold line on the glass, the finger pushing through the fog, clearing it, and the line was, what? A letter, maybe the first letter of your name, or the first letter of someone's name, or just a line, a mark, a stroke, the finger doing what fingers do on fog glass, which is make the mark you feel like making, the mark that has no purpose, no audience, no permanence, because the fog will close over it, the moisture will fill it in, the glass will refog, and the mark will be gone in 3 minutes. And the impermanence is the point. The impermanence is the freedom. And the finger drew what the finger drew, and the line was clear, and the world showed through the line the way the world showed through the dot, a stripe of clarity, a narrow, wet-edged finger-width view of the November outside, and the view through the line. The view through the cleared stripe on the glass was a moving view. The bus was in motion, the world was passing, and the stripe was a frame, a narrow frame, and the world moved through the frame the way a film moves through a projector, one image at a time, and the images were a fence, a mailbox, a hedge, bare, the branches brown and tangled, a driveway with a car on it, the windshield frosted, a porch with the light still on, a yard with a dog in it, the dog still, watching the bus pass, the way the dog on the chain-link fence had watched you pass on the sidewalk, with patience, with mild interest, with the understanding that this was a thing that happened every morning and would happen again tomorrow. And the images moved through the stripe and were gone, replaced by the next, and the stripe was the only clear part of the window, the only place where the outside and the inside met without the fog between them. And the circle, you drew a circle, around the line, or instead of the line, a circle on the glass, the finger tracing the curve, the fog clearing in a round, wet, dripping shape. And the circle was a porthole, was a submarine window, was an eye in the white wall of the fog glass. And through the circle the world was round, was framed in a curve. And the roundness made the world look different, look contained, look like a small moving painting in a round frame. And the circle dripped, the moisture from the cleared fog running down from the bottom of the circle in thin, slow, wandering streams, the water finding its path on the glass, the way all water finds its path, following gravity, following the small imperfections in the surface, each stream taking its own route to the bottom of the window where the rubber gasket collected the water in its channel. And the elm at the corner, I want to drift there for a moment, because the route passed an elm tree, a big one, on the corner of the street where the bus turned right after the railroad tracks. And the elm was the one I watched for every morning through whatever clear patch I had made on the glass. Not because the elm was special, not because anyone had told me about the elm, but because the elm was the first tree on the route to lose its leaves every year. Every year. The other elms still had their yellow, still had their gold, still had the October color hanging on into November. But this elm, this particular elm on this particular corner, was bare by the first week of November. Always. Every year. The branches stripped clean while the trees around it still held their last leaves, and the elm stood there on its corner, naked, its architecture fully exposed, its trunk and its branches and its twigs all visible against the sky. And the elm looked like it had given up, or like it had gotten ahead of itself, or like it knew something the other trees didn't know. And the elm was my marker, my calendar, my proof that November was here and the cold was real and the year was doing what the year does, which is turn slowly from the warm to the cold, from the full to the bare, from the green to the gray. And the elm was the first to admit it, the first to let go, the first to stand on its corner with its arms open and its leaves gone and say, "It's November." I know, I've known for a week. And the elm went by. Through the circle on the glass, through the cleared porthole, the elm appeared and passed and was gone, the bare branches sweeping across the round frame like fingers across a face. And the bus turned right, and the elm was behind me, and the route went on, and the fog was closing. The mark on the glass, the line, the circle, the letter, was fogging over, the moisture returning, the condensation filling in the cleared space, the glass refogging from the edges inward, the clear stripe getting narrower, the circle getting smaller, the world getting less visible, and in a minute, in two, the glass would be fully fogged again, white and wet and opaque. And the mark would be gone, and the window would be just a window, and the world outside would be hidden again. And you could make a new mark, could draw a new line, a new circle, a new letter, and the new mark would last another 3 minutes before the fog took it back. And the taking back was not sad, was not a loss, was just the glass doing what the glass does in November, when the bus is warm and the morning is cold, and the breath of 40 bodies is thicker than any finger can clear. I'm in the studio, and the window beside me has its own fog, just at the edges, just in the corners, the warm studio air meeting the cold glass, and I could draw on it. I could reach over and put my finger on the cold glass and make a line, a circle, a letter, and the line would show me the city outside, the amber streetlights, the wet pavement, the dark, and the line would close in 3 minutes, the fog returning, the glass going white, and the mark would be gone, and the studio would be sealed, and the night would be on the other side of the glass where the night belongs. I've got a record for you. Something drawn on glass. Something temporary. Something that appears and lasts for a moment, and then the fog fills it in and it's gone. And the gone is not gone. The gone is just the glass being glass. And the mark is in your finger, in the cold you felt, in the wet you touched, in the small, bright, brief view of the world through the line you drew on the window of a bus in November in 1962. Here it comes. Let it draw itself on the glass. Let it fade. That one faded the way the mark on the glass faded. Slowly, from the edges inward, the sound retreating, the notes getting quieter, the room around the music getting larger, and then the sound was gone and the room was all there was. The studio, the hum, the night, the quiet that comes after a song that knew how to leave. The board is humming. The city is at its thinnest hour, the hour before the morning, and the night is still the night, but something in it has shifted. Something in the weight of the dark has lightened. Not visibly, not yet, but the way a sleeping person lightens before they wake. The breathing changes, the body stirs, the dream loosens its grip, and the waking hasn't happened, but the waking is near. That's where the night is. That's where we are. And the bus. The bus is almost there. The route is almost done. The turns have been turned. The stops have been stopped. The hill has been climbed. The railroad tracks have been bumped over. And the bus is on the last stretch, the straight stretch, the stretch of road that goes from the neighborhood to the school. And the stretch is flat. And the bus is heavy with its 40 bodies and their coats and their warmth and their breathing. And the windows are fogged completely now. Every window, both sides, the glass a uniform white, the bus sealed in its own atmosphere. A warm, diesel-scented, vinyl-creaking, rubber-floored capsule moving through a November that it can no longer see. But you can see it. You've cleared a patch. You've drawn on the glass one more time. Not a letter this time, not a circle, but a wide, smeared clearing. The palm of your hand pressed flat against the cold fog and dragged down. The moisture wiped away in a broad stroke, and through the cleared glass the world is there, and the world has changed. The neighborhood is gone. The houses are gone. The porches and the porch lights and the mailboxes and the frosted lawns are behind the bus, behind the fogged windows, behind the route. And ahead, visible now through your cleared patch, through the palm print on the glass, is the school. The school, the building, brick, red brick or dark brick, the color that brick becomes in November when the sky is gray and the light is flat and the building absorbs the gray and gives nothing back, and the school was large, larger than any house on the route, larger than the church, larger than the firehouse, the largest building in this part of town, and it sat on its lot the way large buildings sit, heavily, flatly, taking up the ground with authority, the walls going up 2 stories, the windows in rows, the windows tall and multi-paned, dozens of them, and the windows were lit. The lights inside the school were on, the fluorescent lights, the classroom lights, the hallway lights, and the building was glowing from within. Every window a bright, white, rectangular eye looking out at the November morning, and the building looked warm. From the bus through the cleared glass, the school looked like a warm thing, a heated thing, a thing that had been running its furnace all night in preparation for the arrival of the bodies, and the warmth was visible in the windows, in the light, in the faint steam rising from the roof vents where the heated air escaped into the cold, and the cold made it visible. Small plumes of white on the flat roof, the building breathing, the building exhaling its warmth into the November sky, and the parking lot. The bus turned into the parking lot, the wide turn, the air brakes beginning, the speed dropping, and the parking lot was half full. The teachers' cars, sedans and station wagons, the windshields cleared of frost by scrapers, the engines cold now, the cars having arrived 20 minutes ago, 30, and the teachers were inside the building, in the classrooms, at their desks, and the cars sat in the lot in their rows, and the cars were the same cars you saw every morning, the same colors, the same shapes, the same spots, each teacher's car in each teacher's space, and the parking lot was a map of the faculty, a diagram, and the bus moved through it slowly, past the cars toward the curb where the buses stopped, the loading zone, the stretch of curb that was painted yellow, the school bus yellow, the same yellow as the bus. And the bus aimed for its spot the way a ship aims for its berth. And the bus slowed. The bus slowed to a crawl, the tires barely turning, the engine dropping to its deepest idle, and the bus eased to the curb and stopped. And the air brakes exhaled one last time. That long, high, hissing sigh, the bus letting go of its motion, the bus surrendering to the stop, and the stop was final. This was the last stop, the end of the route, the destination, and for a moment, nothing happened. The bus was stopped, and the engine was idling, and the door had not opened, and the bodies in the seats had not moved, and the moment was a held breath, was the silence between the sides of the album, was the run-out groove, was the space between the arriving and the getting off, and the space was warm, and the space was familiar, and the space was the last moment of the ride, the last moment of the bus, and the bodies held it the way you hold the last sip of something warm before you drink it, and the cup is empty. And then the door opened. The folding door, the pneumatic hiss, the panels folding inward, and the cold came in for the last time. And this cold was different. This cold was the school's cold, the parking lot's cold, the cold of a place where you were going to spend the next 7 hours. The cold that was the border between the ride and the day, between the bus and the classroom, between the warm and the whatever came next. And the cold came in and the warm air rushed out, and the two met in the doorway, and the doorway was the last threshold. And the bodies rose, all of them, not at once, in a wave, from the front to the back, the front seats first, the bodies standing, the coats being zipped, the book bags being lifted, and the aisle filled, and the wave moved backward through the bus, row by row, seat by seat, and the vinyl that had been warm made the sound of release. That small, sticky, rubbery separation of fabric from vinyl, the seat letting go of the body letting go of the seat, and the sound traveled through the bus the way the wave traveled, front to back, a quiet, continuous unsticking, and the aisle was full of coats and bags and the shuffling of shoes on the rubber mat. And you stood. Your body rose from the seat that had been cold when you sat down and was warm now. The seat that held the shape of your sitting, the impression of your weight in the vinyl. A shallow, temporary valley that would fill back in, that would flatten, that would cool and go back to being an empty seat in an empty bus. And your legs remembered standing the way they always did after a long sit. The small uncertainty, the small stiffness, and you reached for the chrome bar on the seat in front of you. The cold chrome bar, still cold, still November cold despite the warmth around it. And you steadied yourself, and you moved into the aisle, and you joined the wave. The aisle moved slowly, 40 bodies funneling through a space wide enough for one, each body pausing at the top of the 3 metal steps, pausing because the steps were steep and the book bag was heavy, and the transition from the warm interior to the cold exterior happened here, in this doorway, in these 3 steps, and the transition was physical. You felt it on your face first. The cold air hitting the face the way the warm air had hit the face when you got on. And the cold was a wall, a surface, a thing you walked into. And the cold meant you're outside now. The ride is over. The bus has done its work. And the steps, 3 metal steps down, the ribbed metal under your shoe. The first step, still warm from the bus, still inside. The second step, colder, the in-between step, the threshold step. The third step, cold, the step that was half inside and half outside, and your foot reached the ground. The pavement, the parking lot pavement, gray and flat and cold and solid and still, the way all ground is still after a ride, the way all pavement feels after being carried, and your feet were on the ground, and the ground was not vibrating, was not humming, was not moving, and the stillness was the same stillness you felt at every stop on every ride. The abrupt, slightly disorienting, where did the hum go stillness of the body meeting solid earth after 40 minutes of diesel and vibration and the living, trembling, carrying floor of the bus. And you walked away from the bus, across the parking lot, toward the school, toward the brick, toward the tall lit windows, and behind you the bus sat at the curb, idling, The engine still running, the door still open, the last of the 40 bodies filing out, and the bus was emptying, was lightening, the springs rising as the weight left, the bus getting taller at the curb as the bodies got off, and the exhaust from the tailpipe was visible in the cold. A thick, white, continuous plume of diesel exhaust, warm and chemical and smelling like the bus smelled from outside, which was different from how the bus smelled from inside. The outside smell harsher, more mechanical, more like a machine than a room. And you walked, across the lot, past the teachers' cars, the cold on your face now, the full cold, the November cold that had been waiting on the other side of the glass all morning, while you sat in the warm bus and drew on the fog and watched the elm go by and felt the railroad tracks and leaned into the turns and knew the route with your body and let the heater warm the vinyl under your legs. The cold was back. The cold was here. The cold was on your cheeks and your ears and the back of your neck where the coat didn't reach and your breath was visible again. The ghost, the cloud, the small white proof, and the cold was the morning, the real morning, the morning that the bus had been shielding you from, carrying you through, the morning that was always there, outside the glass, outside the fog, patient and cold in November. And behind you, the bus. You heard it before you didn't hear it anymore. The door folding shut, the last hiss, the last clatter, the engine rising from idle to drive, the air brakes releasing with one final exhalation, and the bus moved. The bus pulled away from the curb, slowly, the big yellow shape turning, the tires on the pavement, the diesel rising in pitch, and the bus moved through the parking lot and toward the exit, and the bus got smaller. The way the hardware store got smaller when you walked away from it, the way the farmhouse got smaller from the car window. The yellow getting smaller, and the engine getting quieter, and the diesel smell thinning in the cold air, and the bus turned onto the road and the bus was gone. And the quiet after the bus. The parking lot without the diesel, without the idling, without the hissing brakes and the folding door. Just the parking lot, the cars in their rows, the building with its lit windows, the sky lighter now than it had been when you stood on the curb waiting. Not light, not morning yet, but lighter, the gray thinner, the east showing something. A pale band of color low on the horizon, behind the school, behind the roof. The first suggestion that the sun was there was coming, was doing its slow November work of arriving late and leaving early. And the bus was gone, and the route was over, and the ride was done. And the morning was on your feet now. Your feet on the cold pavement, your breath in the cold air, your coat heavy on your shoulders, your book bag heavy in your hand. And the school was ahead of you, the brick and the windows and the steam on the roof. And the door was ahead of you, the heavy door. The door that would open into the hallway that smelled like floor wax and chalk dust and the metal of the lockers. And the day was ahead of you, the 7 hours, the classrooms, the desks, the bells. But the bus was in you. The bus was still in you. The warmth of the seat was still in the backs of your legs. The vibration of the engine was still in your feet, a phantom hum, a ghost tremor, the body still tuned to the frequency of the diesel. Still expecting the vibration, still carrying the ride in its bones, the way the body carries everything. Not by deciding to, not by choosing, but by being the thing that was there, the thing that sat in the seat, the thing that leaned into the turns, the thing that drew on the glass, and the body holds what the body holds. And the body held the bus, and the bus held the morning, and the morning held November, and November held the cold, and the cold held the breath, and the breath made the ghost, and the ghost dissolved, and you walked into the school. I'm in the studio, the bus is gone, the route is over. The November morning is a memory inside a memory, the host remembering the boy who rode the bus, the boy's body remembering the seat remembering the warmth remembering the body. And the chain goes on, link by link, the way the route went on, stop by stop, turn by turn, all the way from the curb in the dark to the parking lot in the almost light. Good night, from the low end of the dial, from the warm studio in the quiet city, from the third seat from the back on the right side of a yellow bus in November in 1962. The window fogged, the glass cold, the finger drawing a circle that lasts 3 minutes, and then the fog takes it back, and the glass goes white, and the bus goes on, and the heater goes on, and the route goes on, and the morning goes on, turn by turn, stop by stop, breath by breath, all the way to the school, all the way to the day, all the way to the end of the ride that never really ends because the body is still on the bus. The body is always on the bus. The body is leaning into the turn and feeling the vinyl warm and watching the elm go bare and drawing on the glass. And the glass is cold and the finger is warm and the mark is temporary and the ride is forever. Here's the last one. Something that moves. Something that stops and starts and stops and starts. Something with a hiss and a clatter and a diesel underneath. Something warm inside a cold morning. Something that carries you all the way there and then pulls away and is gone. And the gone is not gone. The gone is just the bus being on its way to the next route, the next morning, the next November, and the sound of the engine fading is the sound of the ride going on without you, going on forever, in the cold, in the gray, in the fog, on the glass. Let it carry you. Let the hum take you. Let the route take you. Let the vinyl warm under you, and the window fog beside you, and the morning pass outside the glass, and close your eyes, and the bus will go on, and the bus will carry you, and the bus will carry you all the way.